You can wait in the garage if you want, but there's nothing for you inside. That's what my son-in-law said to me on Thanksgiving Monday, standing in the doorway of the house I'd built with my own 2 hands 40 years ago. October wind cut through my jacket. I could see the dining table behind him, covered with food, surrounded by people I'd never met. My daughter was in there, somewhere. She didn't come to the door. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I should back up. My name is Irving and I'm 65 years old. I've lived in Ontario my whole life, ran a small renovation company out of Hamilton for 37 years. Honest work, nothing flashy. I raised my daughter Samantha on my own after her mother June passed from ovarian cancer since Sam was 14. June and I had bought a duplex on the escarpment back in 1986 for $92,000, paid it off in 15 years. I lived in the upper unit and rented the lower one. That rental income was supposed to be my retirement. Then Samantha married Craig Peterson. Tall, good-looking, talked like a man who'd read a lot of business books but never actually built anything. He had a marketing consulting firm, or so he said. When they got engaged 3 years ago, Sam asked if they could move into the lower unit. Just for a year, Dad, while Craig gets his company going. I said yes. What father wouldn't? I waived the rent, $1,400 a month, because they were family. Craig shook my hand and called me Pop. I remember thinking that was nice. That was 3 years and $60-some thousand in lost rent ago. But the money wasn't why I drove to my own property on Thanksgiving Monday with a pumpkin pie from the bakery on Locke Street and a bottle of that Niagara ice wine Sam always liked. I drove there because my daughter had invited me. Text message Thursday afternoon. Thanksgiving Monday, 4 p.m. We're doing a big dinner. Come hungry. I arrived at 4 sharp. The driveway had 3 cars I didn't recognize. Craig opened the door wearing an apron like he was hosting a cooking show. He didn't step aside. He looked at me like I was a delivery driver who'd shown up at the wrong address. You're early. It's 4 o'clock, Sam said. 4. We pushed things back. Everyone's still getting settled. I held up the pie and the wine. Well, I brought these. He took them from my hands, set them on the floor behind him, right on the floor in the hallway, like they were packages he'd deal with later. And then he said those words, "You can wait in the garage if you want, but there's nothing for you inside." Behind him, I counted 8 people at the dining table, strangers. Craig's friends, his networking circle, people he was always trying to impress. The turkey was already carved, dishes were being passed, wine was poured. My daughter sat at the far end, not looking up. I stood there on my own porch. The porch I'd rebuilt 2 summers ago after the ice storm damaged the railing. My house. My property. My daughter surrounded by strangers, pretending I wasn't there. Where should I sit? Craig smiled. That particular smile of a man who's already decided you don't matter. Honestly, Irving, we're full. You should have confirmed. Sam probably forgot to tell me she invited you. I'll have her save you a plate. He started closing the door. For a second, I almost did what I'd always done. Almost said no problem, I'll head home, don't worry about it. Almost swallowed it. I'd been swallowing things for 3 years. Swallowed the rent I never collected. Swallowed the $12,000 I'd loaned Craig for his business. Swallowed the way he talked to me like I was slow, the way my daughter stopped calling unless she needed something, the way my own property had become someone else's home, and I needed permission to enter. But standing on that porch, holding nothing because even my pie had been set on the floor, something shifted. I felt it physically, like a bone clicking into place. Not anger, something colder, cleaner. I turned around without a word, walked to my truck, got in, and sat there. Through the dining room window, I watched them eat. Craig stood at the head of the table, raised his glass, made some toast. Everyone laughed. My daughter clapped. I started the engine and drove home to my apartment on James Street. The apartment I'd moved into after giving them the whole duplex because Craig said having the landlord upstairs made clients uncomfortable when they visited. I'd believed that. I'd moved out of my own property to make my son-in-law comfortable. I sat at my kitchen's table in the dark for a long time. Then I opened my laptop and started doing something I should have done 3 years ago. I started counting. The duplex market rental for both units combined was $2,800 a month. 3 years rent-free, that's $100,800. The loan for Craig's marketing firm, $12,000 with a signed promissory note. I'd insisted on that much at least. Smaller amounts. Cash for car repairs, their hydro bill when Craig said the business was in a slow quarter. Groceries I'd bought and dropped off when Sam mentioned they were tight. Another $4,000 roughly. Total, over $116,000. I pulled the promissory note from my filing cabinet. Signed, dated, witnessed by my neighbor Barb. Still valid. Ontario's Limitations Act gives you 2 years from the date you discover a claim or 15 years from the act itself. Craig signed this note 18 months ago. Well within range, I opened a browser tab. Ontario Residential Tenancies Act. Even without a written lease, Craig and Sam were tenants. I'd need to serve proper notice. In Ontario, for non-payment of rent on a month-to-month arrangement, the landlord and tenant board handles it. I'd need an N4 form, notice to end a tenancy for non-payment. If they didn't pay within 14 days, I could apply to the LTB for an eviction order. But here was the thing, they'd never paid anything. There was no lease. They were occupants I'd allowed to stay. My lawyer would know the fastest path. I called Anton Dietrich at 7 the next morning. He'd handled the legal side of my renovation business for 20 years. Quiet man, precise, never wasted a word. Irving, it's the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. I know what day it is. I need to see you today. He paused. Something in my voice. 10 o'clock. Bring everything. I brought everything. Deed to the duplex, solely in my name. Property tax receipts going back to 1986, everyone paid from my account. The promissory note. Bank statements showing every transfer to Craig or Sam. Utility records, all in my name, all paid by me. Anton read through it all without expression. Then he took off his glasses. You want to evict your daughter. I want to reclaim my property and collect a legal debt. This will fracture your family. My family fractured when my son-in-law told me to sit in the garage on Thanksgiving. He put his glasses back on. We'll do this properly. N4 notice for the lower unit. Separate demand letter for the $12,000 promissory note. I'll also send a letter establishing that no rent was ever paid, protecting your position if they try to claim tenants' rights based on an implied agreement. How long? If they don't respond to the N4, we apply to the landlord and tenant board. Hearing usually takes 4 to 8 weeks in Hamilton. If they contest it, could be longer. And the money? Small claims court for the promissory note. Or if you want, I can send a demand letter first. Sometimes the threat is enough. It won't be enough. Not with Craig. Anton nodded. I'll have everything drafted by Thursday. I drove home, checked my phone. 11 missed calls from Sam. 4 voicemails. I listened to the first one. Dad, Craig said you stopped by but left before dinner. I'm sorry if there was a mix-up with the timing. Call me back? Mix-up with the timing. That's how Craig had framed it. Not I told your father to wait in the garage. Not I closed the door in his face. A timing mix-up. I didn't call back. On Thursday, I signed the document. Anton sent everything by registered mail on Friday. I tracked the delivery. Monday morning, 9:14 a.m. Signature received. Craig's handwriting on the electronic pad. My phone rang 11 minutes later. Craig, not Sam. Irving, what is this? Legal notice. Read it carefully. You're kicking us out? Over Thanksgiving? I'm reclaiming my property. You have 14 days to pay the outstanding rent or vacate. Outstanding rent? We had an arrangement. Family doesn't charge rent. There's no written agreement waiving rent. You've been occupying my property. The law is clear. His laugh was sharp, ugly. You'll never go through with this. Sam will talk you out of it. Sam hasn't talked to me in 3 weeks unless she needs money. Put her on the phone. Silence, then his voice lower, controlled. "You're making a mistake, old man. 14 days. He hung up. An hour later, Sam called, crying, "Daddy, please." Craig is furious. He's talking about lawyers. He should talk to a lawyer. He'll learn he has no legal standing. We can't afford to move. Craig's business is struggling. Craig's business has been struggling for 3 years. That's not my problem anymore. She tried everything. Memories of her mother. Guilt about leaving her only parent alone. Promises that Craig would change. He put food on the floor for me, Sam. My pie that I brought to share with you. He set it on the hallway floor and told me to go to the garage. Long pause. He told me you left because you weren't feeling well. And you believed that? Have I ever left a family dinner because I wasn't feeling well? She didn't answer. I heard Craig in the background, loud, telling her to hang up, that he'd handle it. Sam, listen to me. I love you. But I'm done being treated like I don't matter in my own home. You have 14 days. I ended the call and sat with my hands flat on the table until they stopped shaking. What I didn't expect was what Pauline found. Pauline Kim had been my bookkeeper for 12 years, meticulous, thorough, the kind of person who notices when a receipt is dated on a Sunday. She called me the following Wednesday. "Irving, I need to show you something. Can you come to the office?" 20 minutes later, she turned her monitor toward me. "Remember last year when Craig offered to help with your supplier contacts? You gave him temporary access to your business email to coordinate that material order from the Mississauga warehouse." I remembered. A favor. Craig had said he wanted to help learn the business. I'd given him login credentials for 2 weeks. He never stopped using the account. He's been sending emails from your business address for 14 months. My stomach dropped. She clicked through. 3 separate clients. Each one had received a quote from Irving's Renovation Co. on official letterhead generated from my email. Each had paid deposits. $6,000 to a homeowner in Dundas for a basement renovation, $9,000 to a couple in Ancaster for a kitchen remodel, $4,200 to a retired teacher in Burlington for a bathroom upgrade, $19,200 total. None of the jobs were ever started. He used my company to steal. Pauline nodded. There's more. She opened another file. He filed paperwork with the land registry office 4 months ago. A transfer of title on the duplex. Your signature on the transfer document. I leaned closer. The signature looked like mine, but wasn't. The notarization was stamped by someone I'd never heard of. It was rejected. The land registry flagged the notary's credentials as invalid. They sent a notice to a property address where Craig intercepted it. He tried to steal my house. Pauline met my eyes. Irving, he's been planning this for a long time. I drove straight to Anton's office. He reviewed everything, called it what it was. Fraud, forgery, theft under $5,000 times 3, plus the attempted property fraud, which was well over $5,000, making it an indictable offense under the criminal code. We need to go to the police, Anton said. I know. He'll say you're retaliating for the eviction. The evidence doesn't care about his feelings. Hamilton Police Division 20. I sat in a gray interview room across from Detective Faye Drummond, a calm woman in her 50s who wrote everything down in precise block letters. I brought Pauline's printouts, the fraudulent emails, the deposit records, the failed title transfer. She examined each document without expression. How many victims? 3. 3 that we've found so far. She picked up the phone and started making calls, speaker on, so I could hear. Victor Hale, the retired teacher in Burlington. He'd paid $4,200 18 months ago. Never saw a contractor. Filed a complaint with the Better Business Bureau, but never went to police because he thought it was a civil matter. I listened to this man describe how Craig had sat in his living room, shaken his hand, shown him fake references, all using my company's name, my reputation. 37 years of showing up on time and doing honest work, and Craig wore it like a costume. The Dundas homeowner told a similar story. The Ancaster couple had tried to sue my company in small claims court. I'd never received the papers because Craig had used a P.O. box. "Mr. Hale," Detective Drummond asked, "would you be willing to come in and make a formal statement? Been waiting a year and a half for someone to ask me that." After the interviews, Drummond laid it out. Fraud over $5,000, forgery, uttering a forged document. Under the Criminal Code of Canada, fraud over $5,000 carries a maximum of 14 years. A general practice attorney named Griggs, who handled everything from real estate closings to traffic tickets. Voluntary interview the next day. Sam called that night, shaking. "Dad, the police called Craig. What did you do?" "I reported crimes. 3 people lost almost $20,000 because Craig used my business to steal from them." "That's not possible. I have emails, bank records, victim statements. This isn't about Thanksgiving anymore, Sam." Silence. Then, small and frightened, "How many people?" "At least 3, maybe more." She hung up without another word. I sat in the dark and listened to the furnace kick on. November now. The nights were getting long. The police interview lasted 4 hours. Craig's initial strategy was to deny everything, claim the emails were fabricated. Drummond presented IP address logs from my email provider. The logins matched Craig's devices, his phone, his laptop. He shifted to calling it a misunderstanding. Said he'd been helping me and got confused about authority. When Drummond showed him the forged title transfer, Craig claimed he'd found the document already completed, said he was just asking questions about property transfers. The notary stamp was fake. Craig said he didn't know. Anton called me afterwards. His lawyer looked physically ill. "Griggs knows Craig is lying, knows Drummond knows. This is going to the Crown Attorney." Meanwhile, Craig went to war on social media. Long Post painted him as a victim. Devoted son-in-law being thrown out of his home by a vindictive, lonely old man. Winter eviction. Nowhere to go. Attached photos of Sam looking distressed. The duplex exterior. Them as a happy couple at Niagara Falls. Every word technically true. Every word a complete lie. Comments poured in. "That's terrible. What kind of father does this?" Sending prayers. People I knew from the renovation business, commenting, shaking their heads. Anton's advice was direct. Don't respond. Don't engage. We answer in court, not on Facebook. It was the hardest thing I've done, watching my name get dragged through mud by the man who'd stolen from me. But I kept quiet. Let him talk. The evidence would speak louder. Then Sam posted her own message. Shorter. More emotional. "My father chose money over his only child." She attached an old photo of the 2 of us at Niagara-on-the-Lake, me carrying her on my shoulders, both of us squinting into the sun. She would have been 6. I stared at that photo for a long time. 2 weeks later, more bad news. Pauline found a 4th victim, a contractor in Stony Creek named Abel Thornton. Craig had approached him, claiming to be my nephew, rented $8,000 worth of equipment that was never returned. Total damages now exceeded $27,000. The landlord and tenant board hearing was scheduled for January. The criminal charges came down the week before Christmas. Fraud over $5,000, 3 counts of theft, 1 count of forgery, 1 count of uttering a forged document. Craig was arrested at the duplex on a Tuesday morning. Sam called me from the front porch, hysterical. "They put him in handcuffs, Dad." In front of the neighbors. He committed crimes, Sam. She couldn't process it, couldn't reconcile the man she'd married with the man the police had led away in cuffs. I understood that. It took me 3 years to see it myself. Craig was released on bail conditions. Couldn't contact me, couldn't access my business email, had to surrender his passport. He stayed with a friend in Brantford. Sam stayed at the duplex alone. She came to my apartment on James Street 2 days before Christmas. She stood in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself, snowflakes melting in her hair. "Is it all true?" "Yes." He said, "You made it up." Said, "You're confused. Old age." I held out the folder. Police reports, victim statements, email logs. She stared at it but didn't take it. "If I read that, I have to believe it." "You already believe it. That's why you're here without him." She stayed for an hour, drank tea, didn't say much, When she left, she took the folder. The LTB hearing in January was straightforward. I owned the property. No lease existed. No rent had ever been paid. The adjudicator granted the eviction order. Craig's lawyer argued hardship, claimed I was retaliating. The adjudicator reviewed the property records and dismissed the claim in 15 minutes, 14 days to vacate. Craig, out on bail and living in Brantford, drove to the duplex 3 days before the deadline with a rented van. My neighbor Barb called me. "Irving, there's a van at your place. That young man is loading your mother's china cabinet." I broke every speed limit on the escarpment. Got there in 12 minutes. Craig and one helper were carrying my furniture out. The dining table June and I had bought at an estate sale in Elora 30 years ago. My father's roll-top desk, tools from the workshop. I blocked the driveway with my truck. "That's my property. Put it back. It's in my unit, my possession. Your unit? Show me the deed." The helper looked at Craig. "Man, you said this was all yours." A Hamilton police cruiser arrived. Constable Faye Drummond must have flagged the address. The responding officer took statements, looked at the photos I showed him on my phone. Same furniture in dated Christmas photos going back decades. Barb confirmed she'd watched me move that furniture into the house in 2002. Everything was unloaded back inside. Craig stood on the sidewalk with nothing. "You've taken everything from me," he said. "You took everything from yourself. I just stopped letting you take it from me." The trial took place in March, Ontario Superior Court. The Crown's offer was firm. Guilty plea to fraud over $5,000 and forgery. 4 years probation, full restitution to all victims, 200 hours of community service, prohibition from any business activity without probation officer approval. Any violation meant up to 2 years less a day in custody. Craig rejected it, went to trial. The jury was out for 3 hours, guilty on all counts. I sat in the gallery beside Victor Hale. When the verdict was read, Victor closed his eyes and exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for 2 years. Sam didn't attend the trial. She'd filed for divorce in February, moved into a bachelor apartment in the North End, got a job doing admin work at a dental clinic. She was in therapy twice a week. Sentencing was in April. The judge reviewed victim impact statements. Victor spoke about depleting his retirement savings. The Dundas homeowner described the stress that had worsened his wife's health. Abel Thornton talked about nearly losing his contracting's business. I didn't speak. Anton said my civil position was strong enough. The judge sentenced Craig to 4.5 years supervised probation. Full restitution totaling $27,200 to the fraud victims, plus the $12,000 promissory note to me payable in monthly installments. Felony record. Employment restrictions, random compliance checks. Craig stood there in his suit, diminished, hollowed out. As they led him past my row, he looked at me. No anger left, just emptiness. I felt nothing back, not satisfaction, not pity, just an ending. Outside the courthouse, April sun cut through the bare trees. "It's done. The house repairs cost me $11,000. His final act of spite. Holes in the drywall, kitchen faucet ripped out, paint thrown on the hardwood floors. I'd refinished myself. Small price for getting my life back. Sam and I had dinner for the first time in May. My apartment. I made June's pot roast recipe, the one Sam had loved as a kid. We sat across from each other at my small table and didn't talk about Craig or courts or money. She told me about her job. I told her about a renovation project in Dundas. At the end of the meal, she pulled something from her purse. Her wedding ring. Placed it on the table between us. "Can you hold on to this? I don't want it, but I'm not ready to throw it away." I pocketed it without comment. "Dad, I'm sorry. For all of it. For not seeing what he was, for choosing him, for Thanksgiving. You didn't choose him over me, you chose what felt safe. I understand that. I should have opened that door when you knocked." "Yes, but you're opening it now." She smiled. Fragile, uncertain, but real. First genuine smile I'd seen from her in 3 years. I walked her to her car. She paused with her hand on the door. "Can we do this again? Sunday dinners?" "I'd like that." She drove away. I watched her taillights until she turned onto James Street and disappeared. That was 5 months ago. It's October now. Thanksgiving is next week. This morning I stood on the porch of the duplex. My duplex. I've moved back into the upper unit, rented the lower one to a young couple, teachers, who pay on time and wave when they see me. The hardwood floors are repaired, the walls are patched. The china cabinet stands where it always stood. Barb appeared in her garden next door. Morning, Irving, feel strange being relaxed. I remember last October, you looked like a man carrying a piano up a hill. Put it down, realized it wasn't my piano. Your daughter? She's still coming for Thanksgiving? She's bringing dessert. Real dessert, she said. Not store-bought. She's a good girl. Just took a wrong turn for a while. Took us both a while to find the right road. My phone buzzed. Text from Sam. Photo of a kitchen counter covered in flour. A half-assembled pie. Wish me luck. I typed back. Your mother would be proud. See you Monday. Craig's restitution payments have been on time. Anton sends quarterly updates. The victims are being made whole, slowly. Victor Hale sends me a Christmas card now. Sam's divorce was finalized in August. She doesn't mention Craig. I don't either. I've been writing things down. Not for revenge, not to shame anyone. A guide. Warning signs of financial abuse by family. How to protect your property. When to stop calling it keeping the peace and start calling it what it is. Last night I went to my hall closet and pulled out a plastic bag I'd kept since last October. Inside it was the pumpkin pie from Lock Street Bakery, moldy, collapsed, still in its tin. I'd kept it. Couldn't tell you why. A reminder, maybe, of the moment my son-in-law set it on the floor and closed the door. I carried it to the green bin out back and dropped it in. The sound it made was ordinary. Just garbage. That's all it had ever been. I went back to the porch and watched the street. Kids on bikes. A dog walker. The maple tree Barb and I had argued about for 15 years dropping its leaves in the October wind. Normal life. Mine again. Somewhere out there, Craig is living whatever life his choices built. It has nothing to do with me anymore. And next Monday, my daughter will sit at my table and we'll eat Thanksgiving dinner together. Carefully, honestly, like two people learning to trust each other again. It took me a year, $116,000, a trial. A broken family put back together with glue and patience, instead of silence and sacrifice. Was it worth it? I stood on that porch as the street lights came on, cold October air settling in, and I knew the answer. Not because I won, but because I stopped losing. If you liked this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.